Hey everyone, Rob here, and today we're doing the video a little bit differently. Normally I'd just be talking about the volcano and showing you a bunch of images, but today I want to talk about a subject that a lot of people are asking me about, and that's the CDC recommending that you not travel to Iceland if you're from America. They just put out an alert saying don't travel there, especially if you're unvaccinated. Now, I want to go over some of the reasons that they've done that, where we're at in Iceland, and what kind of risks you're actually taking when you come to Iceland. Now, the CDC has 4 different levels in which they categorize different countries for traveling. And it goes from low to moderate to high and then to very high, which Iceland went from sort of this middle range because we didn't have a lot of COVID going on inside of society here. So it went from this, low to moderate risk from the CDC to now it's level 4, which is the highest level, and that's the whole thing where they're saying just don't travel to Iceland anymore. Iceland's case, the number of people infected with COVID and showing up in the test results per 100,000 has exceeded 500 people, and that's one of the metrics that the CDC is using when it's issuing its warning. Now, Iceland is not the only country that the CDC has upgraded to a higher level. Now, France is also included in that, as well as a bunch of other countries that people may be traveling to, but it is important to know kind of what that means as you, the viewer, who are maybe wanting to come to Iceland, what that means. The CDC has their website, and show it here, they have key information for travelers to Iceland. And what they are relaying to everyone is, number 1, in bold, avoid travel to Iceland. That's what they're saying, just flat out, don't go. They're saying if you must go to Iceland, be sure that you're fully vaccinated before traveling. And that's the full 2 doses of a 2-dose vaccine, or in the case of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, it's 1 dose. They're also saying that because of the situation in Iceland, even fully vaccinated travelers may be at risk for getting and spreading COVID-19 variants. And again, talking about the Delta variant. A couple of things that they're focusing on are the number of COVID cases in Iceland versus the number of people in the country. So Iceland's not a big country, it's around 350,000 people. So when you're looking at individual COVID cases in that small group, lately we've been getting somewhere between 100 to 150 cases every single day. The big concern for us here is that a lot of the cases are coming from vaccinated individuals. Now, that's not to say that the hospitals are overrun with people going in because of COVID issues. There are people in the hospital, unfortunately, there's people on ventilators and things like that in the ICU. But what the concern is a little bit is this Delta variant. And what's happening is, even though you're vaccinated, you're still showing up as having Delta in your system. You might feel fine, or it might just be like a cold or mild flu. So no real serious issues for a large number of the people, but there is still the concern that it's spreading even amongst people who have been vaccinated. So when we're looking at the actual COVID cases in Iceland, there are a couple of rules in place, and a lot of people, varying countries require this, is you can come here fully vaccinated. You didn't used to have to do a test. If you were fully vaccinated, we just let you in. And there was no restrictions here in Iceland for a long period of time because, again, a lot of people were vaccinated. I think it's something like over 90% of the eligible population who can get the COVID vaccine have received full vaccination. So the government here decided that they would let society go free, as it were, prior to all of the restrictions that were in place. Visitors were coming, and in fact we had a huge number of tourists because of the eruption and people coming to Iceland. It's nice and summertime here, which is around 15 to 20 degrees Celsius, although lately it's been around 24. But the big issue is, again, the number of cases that have sort of sparked out of seemingly nowhere. And there's a couple reasons that they're thinking that these cases have spiked, and some of it relates to football matches or soccer matches in England and people traveling and bringing it back and so forth. So the changes that have been made recently over the past 2-3 weeks is, again, setting limits on the number of people that can come together. Masks are recommended. A lot of stores now require you to have a mask, and then I know a lot of airlines are doing that, as well as coming to Iceland, even if you're vaccinated, with a PCR or a rapid test. So showing that aren't carrying COVID at the time. What they're saying now, in addition to all that, is that if you have ties to Iceland, and this might not apply to most of you watching, but if you have ties to Iceland, so if you live here or you're working here, etc., then they're recommending that once you land in Iceland, in addition to the pre-arrival test that you would need up to 3 days before arriving, they're saying that they would like those people to get tested again once they're in Iceland. Now, if you're coming as a visitor, those rules don't apply to you. Now, you can always check covid.is for the absolute up-to-date information because things are always changing. This video may go out of date pretty quick, but as it is now, that's the recommendation. So if you're coming to Iceland, just be aware of the fact that we are getting, as a whole country, around 100 to 150 COVID cases every day, and the majority of that is within the society. They do check people at the border, and there's very, very few, 0, 1, maybe 2 people get flagged for having COVID at the border. Most of them are in the society, and I believe most of them are, again, asymptomatic, so they're not showing any symptoms, which is pretty dangerous because then when you're getting all these COVID results of people who have it, you're saying, okay, well, out of 120 people, 60 or 70 were not in quarantine. And so it's getting harder and harder to contain when this variant, this Delta variant, isn't showing symptoms and people are still able to pass it on. So I know a lot of people are worried about the CDC's recommendation, and they're not going to bar you from traveling, but just be aware that you are going to be coming somewhere that perhaps has a little bit more COVID than you may have thought before. If you're a tourist coming and you're just doing touristy things like going to the volcano and going to the sites and the hot springs and things like that, and you're not really mingling in these really big groups, I think it's a safe bet. Wear a mask, keep your distance when you're around larger groups, but if you're out in nature and you have the distance around you, it should be safer for you and less likely for you to contract any COVID. Now, I typically like to stay away from the whole COVID and vaccination talk, but again, I'm getting a lot of questions regarding this, and I'm seeing online a lot of people asking, what does this mean as an American traveling to Iceland or even from somewhere else? Because according to the European standards, they use a color-coded system for the countries, and Iceland has turned red, which means that it is a very high rate of COVID going on in society. So as a tourist, I would say that just be very mindful when you're traveling, as you should be anyway, in all of this pandemic mess. But when you're coming here, just remember that bring a mask. Make sure that you have at least 1 meter distance between people who are not in your group, because you don't know where they've been. And then, of course, there are large group restrictions. Right now it's at 200 people for the most part. So unless you're going to a big event where 200 people are kind of crammed in, which is very unlikely, as Iceland has canceled the marathon, they've canceled a fireworks show that was going to go on at the Glacial Lagoon. A lot of these bigger events are being canceled just because of the restrictions. One other thing that I want to mention, part of the restrictions is on the bar scene. So if you want to come to Iceland and go for some drinks at the bar, totally doable, 100% still going to be a lot of fun, but there is some things that you need to know in terms of some places may require you to have a mask and then go use that mask while you go to your seat. Maybe they're going to be taking down your name and phone number just so that the government is able to keep an eye and try and track where these infections are occurring. Now, the bars, they close at midnight, but you have to be inside of the building before 11 in order to stay that extra 1 hour. But if you're coming to Iceland, perhaps you're not really focusing on the bar scene. You're really focusing on seeing the nature and seeing the sort of culture that's around here. And you could do a lot of that without interacting with big groups. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to do a quick video. There was a lot of questions around this CDC thing because I mentioned it just in passing in the previous video, but I wanted to show you exactly what this means, show you what it means when you're coming to Iceland and what you should be aware of as you're going about your life. If you're from the States or Canada even, and you're coming to Iceland, it should be business as usual in the sense that there's restrictions, there's masks, and there's precautions that you need to take. So if you follow all of those guides, hopefully everyone stays safe. I don't want to say don't come, because that's what the CDC is saying. I know that in terms of Iceland's eyes, they love having visitors come. Just be mindful of the restrictions and the rules in place. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this type of video. I mean, maybe I'll do more of these. I know I'm planning on taking the camera outside of the apartment here and showcasing a little bit more of the nature as things come on. And we're getting pretty close to the Northern Lights season, which I'm super excited for because it's dark enough. I think I can almost see some stars from time to time that the Northern Lights should be popping up pretty soon. So if you are looking to travel to Iceland for the Northern Lights season, now's the time to start booking your trips. If you're from the States, there's flights all the time. If you're from Canada, Icelandair has just started recently flying to and from Toronto, and I'm pretty happy about that because that means I now have a direct flight to go visit my family when the time comes and it's a bit safer. So until next time, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.